100cc is the most common and popular karting class in America, and for a good reason. It's a great way to get into racing two-stroke karts that isn't as expensive as tag or shifter karts. There are a lot of options for engine packages as well. The old Yamaha KT100, which is still raced in some series across the globe. The Vortex VLR 100, but the most popular by far is the IAME K100. There's always close racing, no matter at what level, and at pretty much every regional or national race, the 100cc class has the most entries. The K100 senior class at the SCUSA Supernats is by far the biggest, with around 90 entries every year, which is absolutely insane. Only half of the competitors get into the final. Regional races such as Challenge of the Americas, Route 66 Sprint Series, and the California Pro Kart Challenge often have massive 100cc fields with at least 30 drivers. There's even a huge demand for the engine on the club racing scene. Trackhouse Motorplex often has at least 20 to 30 KA seniors at their club series. The great thing about this karting class is that there's such a big variety of skill level. From national pros to complete newcomers to people watching this video, there's always someone to race. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips to not only surviving, but mastering 100cc racing. So my first tip is to understand the power differences and adjust your driving style. So basically in 100cc karts, you're going to want a wider line than a tag and a shifter kart, narrower than an LO206 line, for example. Just because there's still not that much horsepower. You want to keep the RPMs up and go on the gas pretty early, unlike a tag. And also there's no rev limiter on the engines normally. They have a more linear power delivery compared to the more powerful 125cc engines, so it's okay to mash the gas pedal out of the corners sometimes. You want to be on the throttle like quite a lot compared to in a tag or a shifter kart. And of course, unlike an LO206, you can also be pretty hard on the brakes going into braking zones. Something that is really important in 100cc racing is adjusting the carburetor, specifically the engine tuning. Tuning the carburetor is extremely important for engine performance. All the 100cc engines, whether it's the ROC VLR or the KA, they're pretty finicky when it comes to this, so it's really important to have the right jetting. While you may think you have a bad engine, just changing the needles a little bit will improve it drastically. The carburetor is very sensitive to changes in humidity, temperature, and elevation, so it really depends on what track you're on and if things change throughout the weekend, such as like the weather. Now, a really good skill to have while racing 100cc is adjusting the jetting while driving. You often see this when you watch professional racers. They kind of reach down by their side and adjust the needles while driving. Basically, you do this with your right hand. You just reach down by the engine and you'll feel the needles. It feels a bit weird at first, but after doing it for a while, it pretty much becomes muscle memory. But I'd say practice sitting in your kart stationary and with all your gear and stuff on, practice adjusting the needles. The one closest to you is the top end and the one furthest away is the bottom end. To lean out the engine, pull the pins toward you, and to richen the engine, pull the pins away from you. It takes a lot of experience to know whether you need to go rich or lean, but a pretty easy way to tell is your EGT, or exhaust gas temperature. Basically, if you're too lean, there's too much air in the engine and not enough fuel, and your engine temperature will be higher. So if your EGT is getting above like 1200 or like just upwards of 1200, then you should probably richen the engine while you're driving. Another way, which is kind of harder, is to listen to the engine or kind of feel how it performs. This takes a lot of experience for sure. So with that being said, let's talk about the races, and more specifically being assertive in big races. So flashback a couple years ago, I was racing KA Senior and I was on pole for the California ROC Championship, which was my first pole position at a national race. In the heat, it was a decent race. I was in a group of 2 other drivers in second, ahead of everyone. I was the fastest though, but I just could not throw a pass in the braking zones. And as a result, I didn't win a race that I probably should have. Since the races are so big, you want to definitely avoid crashes and be smart, but also be assertive. With over 40 people racing at once, it can get very chaotic and easy to lose positions if you yourself are not passing people. Regional or national 100cc races require racecraft above everything else to do well, I'd say. If you're not going forward, you're going backwards, like I've said before. Racing can get pretty crazy in this category, as it's not quite the pro class. People don't drive as professionally or cleanly, so don't be surprised if you see some dirty driving or big crashes or just lack of experience. With that being said, also make sure to strategize your race weekends. During a hectic race weekend with a lot of other drivers, track position is key in important sessions such as qualifying. It's certainly not ideal to be the first kart in the pack because you're basically giving your opponents a free draft and everyone will go by you. Drafting is pretty important in 100cc and especially at bigger tracks. Not as much as L206, but still a decent amount because the engine's not that powerful and there's no rev limiter. But at the same time, if you position yourself further down the order, you could get held up by slower drivers. My strategy at national races, when I know I'm not the fastest, is to mix in with the fastest drivers towards the front. Even if I'm off the pace, I'll still be getting their draft and hanging with the best, rather than messing around with worse drivers. In big 100cc races, oftentimes your practice sessions determine your qualifying positions. Or if you're in the slow or fast group, if the grid is split for qualifying, always do your best to get into the fast group, because it is always at an advantage in quality. With the draft and the track development, it just kind of sucks being in the slow group. Well, we made it to the end. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and a comment, and please feel free to subscribe. It helps me out a lot and I'd appreciate it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.